Sure, sure. Good morning, my dear friends. Good morning in USA and good evening in Georgia. We are happy to having you here, and we are happy to see you in this our Zoom meeting room. As you already are informed, this is the final live session of International Symposium of Young Scholars in the Humanities, which is going to be held in Tbilisi. On the basis of and on the platform of the Tbilisi State University. And it is organized by the Faculty of Humanities, particularly by the Department of the Research and the Scholarly Investigations. So I would like to thank you for joining us. I'm happy to see you here, and let me ask you to present yourself and to say a couple of words about yourself, a very, very short bio for our young researchers who are going to have more information about what Crossref is and who are the team members of this great and huge digital base of repository.
Absolutely. I'm happy to start. So I am Rosa Maurice-Clark, the Communications and Events Manager here at Crossref. I've been with Crossref now for 5 or 6 years. And yeah, so I'm joined today with by my colleague, Susan Collins. Susan, if you want to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Rosa. Hi, yes, my name is Susan Collins. I'm one of the 2 community engagement managers at Crossref. I've been here for, goodness, about 13 and a half years. In different roles in the organization. And we're very happy that you asked us to speak with you all today. We have a lot of good information. I hope that will be useful to all of you.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Thank you so much. And before we will start a short and very important and interesting conversation about who is Crossref and who are the team of professionals who are doing Crossref, let's say a couple of words about our International Symposium of Young Scholars in the Humanities, because the main goal and the main purpose of our meeting is to inform the young scholars from all over the world, not only from Georgia, about our symposium and to gather young professionals and give them opportunity to share their scientific ideas and research goals. So at Ivana Jalakishvili Tbilisi State University, Faculty of Humanity invites all the young scholars to participate in the 4th International Symposium of Young Scholars in the Humanities. And I'd like also to mention here that the idea of the symposium belongs to the scientific supervisor of our team, so young scholar team, Associate Professor Ekaterina Rozashvili, and who at the same time is the head of the Office of the Scientific Research and Development at Tbilisi State University. The symposium is open to young scholars working in the humanities and related fields. Of course, we have particular goals. And the main purpose of our meeting and of this gathering is to inform and make young scholars and encourage them to do scientific research in spite of this COVID pandemic, because everyone is a bit exhausted, some of them are not thinking as actually as they were doing in the previous before the pandemic. So our main goal is to make them more active. And I'd like also to share the website of International Symposium, which is located at ICTSUG, where someone can find information about the scientific committee, information about the registration, symposium itself. We have wonderful keynote speakers, all of them to this year work in archaeology, and archaeology is the main theme of this year's symposium. We have Paul Wordsworth, Eberhard Sauer, and Emanuel Intariatam. Emmanuel was already in Tbilisi and is in Tbilisi, and we are thinking how to get Eberhard and Paul in Tbilisi because of this pandemic, but at least the online meeting will be organized in spite of this not easy situation in the state. So thank you for listening and watching our presentation about the symposium. And finally, I'd like to move to the Crossref idea itself. Could you please tell me, my dear colleagues, who is Crossref? Let's take this question this way.
Okay. So should we start with our presentation, and then I think that might go through a lot of the questions that you have. That would be okay?
I think presentation will be great. So let's.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Can I share my screen?
Sure, you can.
Okay, great. Let me find this here.
Let's see. Everything is open for you, but let's wait.
Yeah.
Okay, great. We see it. It's visible.
Okay. Rosa, do you see just the big screen, right? Not the notes, correct?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay, great.
Here we go. I will get us started. So as mentioned, I am Rosa Maurice Clark, the Communications and Events Manager here at Crossref, and joining me today is my colleague Susan Collins, who is one of our community and engagement managers. And we just want to say thank you for asking us to speak with you today. So we are happy to share the slides from the presentation. So don't worry about making notes of any of the links that we mentioned, as you will have them afterwards. So today we will share with you information about Crossref and what we do. As a membership organization, we will explain why publishers join with us. We will cover what a DOI is and isn't, and what metadata is, why it's important, and what people do with it, and how you can send your metadata to us. And if there are still questions, we are happy to answer them at the end of the presentation. So first, let's start with a bit of information or introduction to Crossref. So Crossref is a membership organization, and publishers need to be a member of Crossref in order to create Crossref DOIs and register content. So membership in Crossref is open to organizations that produce professional and scholarly materials and content. Crossref is not just about DOIs. We are not defined by a particular service, but more about how we fit into the scholarly community as a whole. And this is our mission. We make research outputs easy to find, cite, link, assess, and reuse. We are a not-for-profit membership organization that exists to make scholarly communications better. So we work with a diverse group of members and affiliated organizations, over 19,000 from 140 countries. So we now have a metadata store well over 127 million content items, which is growing every day. We offer a wide array of services to ensure that scholarly research metadata is registered, linked, and distributed. When members register their content with us, we collect metadata about that piece of content. And we process it so that connections can be made between publications, people, organizations, and other associated outputs. We preserve the metadata we receive for the scholarly record, and we make it available across a range of interfaces and formats so that the community can use the metadata and build tools with it. Okay, so we mentioned we work with a diverse group of members and affiliated organizations. So who are they? Who uses Crossref? Probably more people than you realize. It's from publishers and funders to indexing services and data analytics systems. So, and the number continues to grow year on year, especially as we expand the content types and related items that can be registered with Crossref. Okay, so our member types are very diverse, and they include commercial publishers, societies, government institutions, universities, just to name a few, and include all types of publishing models and let's say open access or subscription. And why do publishers join? This is important. It's to help their content get discovered, show people where their content is located, update it if and when it moves, drive more traffic to their publications. It turns references into hyperlinks. They are able to find out who is using their content, and they also participate in other collaborative services. So now I'm going to hand it over to Susan, who will talk to you about DOIs and metadata.
Great, thanks, Rosa. So now we're going to talk a little bit about what a DOI is and what it isn't. So a lot of people do associate Crossref with DOIs, but joining with us is not simply about getting an identifier for your work. It's also about registering comprehensive metadata for your content so that it can be discovered. It's important to note that DOIs are not an indicator of the quality of a publication or the organization that registers them, nor is it a mark of quality of the research that's presented. A DOI is a persistent link and an identifier for a particular content item. So why would you use a DOI instead of, say, a URL? When an author publishes a journal article, the reference section of that article most likely is going to include articles that are published by different journals. Before Crossref was founded, publishers used to sign individual agreements between each other to agree to link to each other's content. So this became no longer sustainable as online publishing grew. So Crossref was formed to provide a central solution by providing a network infrastructure that enhances scholarly communications, and that was done using DOIs. So if you look at the example here on the slide, you'll see that each of the references in this article, the link is made using a DOI as opposed to a URL. And this means that the links won't break over time and that readers are always going to be able to find the cited content. If you click on the DOI, you'll get taken to the article that's referenced in the list of references. So when each piece of content is registered, each metadata record includes the persistent identifier or the DOI. And each DOI is associated with a URL in its metadata. And that URL can be updated centrally so that the DOI always goes to the current location of the content. So let's look at the structure briefly of a DOI. DOI has three sections. The first part in red is the resolver address. So each DOI is an identifier, but it's also an actionable link, which means that it's resolvable in a browser. The blue part is the prefix, and each member is assigned their own prefix when they join. The yellow is the suffix, and this is the part of the DOI that's created by the publisher and is unique to each content item. And I'll go into a bit more detail about prefixes and suffixes. So when members join, they're assigned a unique prefix for that account, and it's in format 10 dot followed by 5 digits. Some journals, you might see DOIs that have 4 digits, and they originally started with 4 digits, but as need grew, they've become 5 digits since 2012. So some members have one publication, some have multiple. And so one prefix can be used to register all of your content, even if you publish different types of content. So like say books and journals, for example. There's no limit to the number of DOIs that you can create, and there's no minimum number that's required. Also, there's no minimum number of volumes that a journal must have published before you can join as a Crossref member. We do receive a lot of questions from new members, especially when they start, about creating their suffixes for their DOIs. So remember, DOI is an opaque identifier, and that's to say that the DOI itself doesn't necessarily have any meaning. There's no prescribed formula that you need to follow. But our best advice is that your DOI should be consistent, simple, and short. So consistent and simple for easy management, establishing a suffix pattern that's easy to maintain, and short so they don't take up too much space when used in citations, like we saw on that other slide. When creating your suffix, you can use the letters A through Z, the numbers 0 through 9, and certain characters such as hyphens or parentheses. Some members choose to use the ISSN or the volume and issue numbers of their journals. Others may use the title abbreviation. Again, a DOI suffix itself doesn't need to state anything about the item that it's identifying. That's all done with the metadata that you register with us. We do have guidelines that members follow when displaying their DOIs, and it's very important that all members follow these guidelines for consistency and usability. Crossref DOIs should be displayed in the full format, full URL format, like the example on the slide, wherever the bibliographic information about that content is displayed. So displaying them in this format makes them an actionable link, meaning that if you click on it, it's resolvable in a browser. Crossref DOIs must resolve to either the full text, if you provide open access to your content, or to a landing page that you maintain. And this landing page must contain the full bibliographic citation of the article so that the reader knows that they've arrived at the correct content. It also must contain the DOI displayed in the format, the correct format, which we talked about in the previous slide, and then instructions on how to access the full text. And this might be done, if it's not open access, through a login or subscription, for example. Access to the full text is always controlled by the publisher, but this landing page must be available to all readers. And this is just an example of a landing page. You see the arrow pointing to the full DOI, and it also includes the bibliographic information of that particular article. So most people know that you can register journal articles with us. However, there's a lot of other types of content that we accept as well. Books and book chapters is our second most popular content type. Conference proceedings and papers, also we have a lot of submissions for those types of content as well. Our newest content types are posted content or preprints, peer reviews, and grants. So when you register your content with us, what you're doing is sending us the basic citation metadata for all the items that you register. And this would include the titles, authors, publication dates, issue numbers, ISSNs, ISBNs if you're registering books. So anything that describes the content that you're registering. We have minimal requirements because we need to support a variety of publication practices. But we do ask that you send us as much metadata as possible and it be accurate and clean. The more comprehensive your metadata is, the more likely your content will be discovered. So we also collect non-bibliographic metadata about your content items, and this can include your references, your funding data, your author's ORCID IDs, license information, abstracts, and any data about relationships between the items. Using our Crossmark service, you can also include information on errata or retractions or updates. And we're always adding more options as metadata grows. So why is it important for you to include such good comprehensive metadata? Registering content isn't just about getting DOIs for your work, it's also about where your metadata goes after you register it with us. A lot of other organizations use that metadata to find the content that you publish. Because our Crossref metadata is standardized and machine readable, it's very useful to many organizations who make your content more discoverable through their tools and services. And you can see on the slide here just a few examples: libraries and scholarly sharing networks, author profiling, annotation services, metric services. They all subscribe to our Crossref metadata, use that in tools that they have created. So there are several different ways that you can register your content with us. All the metadata that comes to us is ultimately in XML format. We have our own schema for metadata deposits, and the schema is a set of rules that define what can be included and in what format. Some members register the content by creating their own XML using the schema and upload their files to our system. But not all members are able to generate their own XML, and that's okay. We have alternative options. We have a manual web deposit form, and for users of the Open Journal system, OJS, there is a plugin available that will send journal metadata to us. These are a couple of links that you can visit to learn more about our web deposit form, about OJS, and about some of the different tools and that we offer. And these are links to our support documentation and help pages. And again, we'll make the slides available to you, so you'll have these for reference. So there's a lot of benefits to becoming a member, but it also means that you have some obligations to your fellow members and to the wider scholarly community. So joining Crossref, again, is so much more than just getting a DOI for your content. You're committing to a long-term relationship with your content and your metadata and the rest of the scholarly community. So just a couple of things on membership. There's all members pay an annual membership fee, which is tiered depending on your publishing revenue. It starts at $275, which is the same for both commercial and nonprofit organizations. There's also a fee for each record that you create, and these vary by the type of content. So books and journals and preprints all have different fees associated with them. But once you've registered a content item, there's no further fee to update the metadata that's associated with each record. I'm now going to hand it back to Rosa, who's going to wrap it up for us for the day.
Excellent. Thanks, Susan. Okay, so where can you find out more? Here are some resources. You can start by going to our own community forum, where you can join in on discussions, or you can post your own questions to be answered by the Crossref team or other community members. Check out our documentation for detailed how-to guides, or you can email our support member or billing teams. We also run events on a variety of topics, including our services and tools. And you can find our recordings on these presentations on these pages. And you can also visit our YouTube channel. We also post recordings of our community events there as well. And lastly, you can follow us on Twitter, and you can read our blog to stay up to date on any new developments and what we've been up to. There's a lot of great information on our blog. And there you have it. So thank you. Presentation. Any questions?
Thank you, dear Rosa and Susan, also for your detailed information and detailed explanation what a DOI is, how we can be the Crossref members, and what we have to do to make our journals more popular, and how to deposit metadata. I think it's the question today and nowadays, which is important and interesting to all the young scholars, and not only for them, for each scholar today. As for our particular interest to Crossref, I'd like to tell you a good news for Georgian Young Society and Georgian Young Scholars. We, on the basis of the International Symposium of Young Scholars in the Humanities, are going to launch the journal, the Young Scholars Journal, which will be named TSU-T, which means Tbilisi State University Towards Internalization. And we also would like to deposit our metadata on Crossref, and of course to the other bases like Scopus and EBSCO and etc. and so forth, and so on and so forth. So for the first time, I'd like to illustrate a trial mode of our website. It's TSUT, as I have mentioned, and we are working on this project and published yet, but exactly, and as soon as we will finish our this year's symposium, we are getting, of course, articles, and also best and selected articles of the participants of the ICH 2021. We are going to publish in our journal. So can we, as a team of young scholars, not of course on the basis of the university, and also my question refers to the is a particular team of young scholars, a particular department can be the member of Crossref and cite this journal, this particular journal. So if we do not have just published 2 volumes, only this at the end of this year, we will have only 1 single volume of SUT. So what kind of plan we should have, or wait, for instance, Scopus is requiring at least 3 final volumes to compare and to discuss EBSCO 2. What happens in the case of Crossref?
We don't have a minimum number of volumes that you have to have registered or published, I should say, before you join with us. In fact, you don't have to have any. You could just be ready to launch your journal, but want to start at the beginning using DOIs. We don't have the same requirements that Scopus or EBSCO has. So if you have just 1 volume, you can join as a member then and start. You can go back and add DOIs to previously published content if it's already been published on your website. You don't have to start just with the upcoming volumes as well.
Wow, that's great news. I think it will be helpful for our team. We will consider all these membership issues, and I'm sure we will refer to your team for becoming a member with this request. So I think we have discussed pretty much, and we already have, and our visitors already have information about our presentation structure. If there are any other questions, I think we can go to the end and finish our meeting. Thank you again, Rosa and Susan, for your time, for getting up so early in the United States and being with us.
Thank you for inviting us. It's been great. Thank you.
Yeah, it has been a pleasure meeting you all. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Thank you.